All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for posting where all you're from. My name is Neha Scher-Shah, and I'm the chapter leader for IxDF Las Vegas chapter. And I'm really excited that you guys decided to come here today. So this session is a little bit extra special for me because our speaker today is Jared Spool. And I consider him as one of my favorite mentors and teachers. I've learned a lot from him. Not only he's a go-to for me for learning about UX, but also navigating the UX job market and figuring out how to stand out in a very competitive space. The recent job that I got was because of his guidance. So I've learned so much from him, and I'm thrilled that you get to do the same today. So today's talk is about a topic that's everywhere, which is AI, um, but with a much needed UX lens. And Jared will share why AI might not be the magical fix we often expect, and how UX professionals are actually the ones best positioned to clean up the mess and deliver value and lead the way forward. So, and like I said, I'm the chapter leader for IXDF Las Vegas chapter. So that's what that this session is brought to you by the Las Vegas chapter. And another thing, please feel free to post your questions in the chat. I'll do my best to get them answered by Jared. And if I call on you, please be ready to speak, unmute, and talk to him. So without any more build-up, I just want to dive in. And yeah, let's go. Jared, to you.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Nia. It's an honor to be here. So thank you very much, and thank you for everybody who's coming on this late part of a Tuesday to be able to for me to be able to talk to you. So I thought the way I would do this here is I would talk for about half an hour. I have a bunch of notes. In fact, you can follow along with the notes right here. I'll post them again after a few more people join so that everybody can have access to them. Um, and I thought that I would leave a couple of dangling strings here, and we could have some questions after I'm done talking to sort of let you help design where this talk is going to go. So I'll introduce a bunch of topics, and then we'll see what we want to talk about to finish them. And as Naya mentioned, we're this presentation is sort of about the topic that is everywhere right now, which is that there's this perception that AI is this big thing that is going to take over the world, and maybe it is, but right now we have to deal with the reality that we're being asked to deliver things, and we have to know how to do that. So I thought I would talk about that today, and where I want to start is actually with a post that I saw on LinkedIn a few days ago that struck me as sort of typical of the types of posts we see. It was for agentic synthetic A/B testing, and the poster had announced that this was coming and we had to be prepared for it. And what this was some sort of service that the poster imagined that would uh, basically um, drive. The idea was that there would be these agents, and you could fire off thousands of them, and they would A/B test your design. And the process of A/B testing your design, like each agent would represent some person, like the poster mentioned a 54-year-old woman in Paris who had vision problems because apparently, women who are in their 50s in Paris have vision problems. And she's interested in a purse because people in Paris are interested in purses. And so this agent that you be one of the thousands of agents that this A/B testing, this synthetic A/B testing tool would fire off to crawl over the designs you created for your A/B test and see if blind Parisian 54-year-olds can find their purses. And that's and what was really jumped out at me was less about the technology and more about how this is coming so soon. Like the way he wrote it, it's going to be here any minute. We should just wait for this agent or these thousands of agents to just walk through our door and start taking over our computers and start doing all these things. And that's the thing that keeps jumping out at me, is that every time somebody talks about AI, they're always talking about the future. They're not talking about, the AI of today. They're talking about what it's going to be like any minute now. And it's always this romanticized, fantasized sci-fi version of what AI could be. It's as if we're on the deck of the Star Trek Enterprise and we have all of that available to us. And it's in this context of it's coming soon, and if you're not prepared, you're going to be left behind. And this is fascinating to me because it's rare to find somebody to talk about the AI of the present. It's always how amazing it will be. The stories are always set in the future. They're always about how incredible it's going to be, except for the handful of stories about how it's just going to take all our jobs. And that's where we're at. That's the universe that we're currently in, is this universe where AI is going to change everything, and we're going to have to adapt. And yet this is in the same world where when I see LinkedIn posts about the field of UX, they're not as optimistic. They're always not always, but they're often this really sort of negative tone. I mean, there's a lot of people out of work. I get that. There's a lot of people who are not particularly happy with their current situation. I get that too. But there's a lot of sort of UX is dead conversation that we have in today's world. And the field is disintegrating in front of our eyes. It's falling apart, and some of this, I think, is justified. I think what has happened over the last 10 years is that the field has very much systematized UX work, that we've been so focused on design systems and design operations and standard procedures that we've made it into this almost factory type motif, this factory setting. And that that the work that we see as UX, which was once seen as this sort of special thing, is no longer special. It's quite routine, and frankly, it's not sexy anymore. It's not, for some people, it's not fun. It's the work has lost its meaning. That romantic, optimistic view of UX has diminished, and for many, it feels like it's a battle every day. You have to fight to do your best work. You have to fight to get teams to do what they want, and this is problematic. So, so we have this happening at the same time that we have this incredibly optimistic future view of AI. And the juxtaposition to me is really interesting. But the thing that I think can that is most interesting is that I'm of this belief that AI actually gives us an opportunity to break out of this cycle of UX getting trapped in this sort of corporate machine, and that that AI is going to make things better for UX folks. And not because AI is going to help us do our jobs better. I actually am of the opinion that it's probably going to make it harder. But that AI is actually going to make things way more complex. And UX professionals and UX expertise thrives on complexity. Our job is to take complex things and make them easier, make them better, improve people's lives by eliminating that complexity. And I think that's where the benefit is going to come from. I don't think AI is going to be some sort of assistant. I think it's just a bunch of technology that does some particular things well and a lot of things poorly. And that is going to deliver opportunity for us to help clean up a mess that this sort of rush into AI is starting to make. So I think AI is going to make UX really valuable to organizations again, because we can bring order to a whole lot of chaos that is about to happen. And that chaos comes from this third factor that is about to sort of land, or is landing for people, which is the what's happening at the executive level, because executives are way too focused on AI. I mean, we're seeing posts from CEOs saying things like, if the employees don't start using AI, they're going to get fired. Or we're not going to hire anybody who doesn't use AI in their work. Or you can't hire any more contractors unless you can prove that an AI can't do their job. And there's all this demand that AI get built into the products that we have. It turns out that executives are pushing for the adoption of AI in their organizations. If you think that to me is a little weird, right? Executives, the CEOs of companies, are focusing on what technology the company should build. They never pay attention to what technology the company should build. And suddenly they are. And in a study that IBM did of 2,000 CEOs, the 2,000 CEOs said that they expected AI investments to more than double in their organizations over the next 2 years. And this is coming out of fear. There's this fear amongst the executive set that if you don't build AI into your products and you don't have all your employees using AI tools and capabilities, your company will be rendered obsolete. Your competition will beat you. You will not be able to keep up with the world. All of these things will fail because you have not done what you were supposed to do and made AI the thing that drives your business. And what's even more interesting is that these executives can't explain what AI is. They don't actually know what they are demanding from their organizations. And in that same study, 25%, 500 of the 2,000 people surveyed said that only that they saw existing AI projects return value on their investments, right? So that means that more than 75% of AI projects are not actually worth the money that was put into them. And only 16% of their projects have scaled enterprise wide, which means that most of the AI projects out there are just little toy projects that aren't producing anything across the whole enterprise. And this is the stuff that theoretically is going to replace us, but it's not doing that because they can't get it to scale. They can't even get it built. And so AI is not meeting the demands of today. And it's pretty clear that where it is today, it's actually not capable of meeting the demands of today. Yet that fear is still there. And that fear is based on not the AI that exists today, but an imaginary AI, a fantasized AI, something that is completely romanticized. And the thing that jumps out at me the most is that all this has happened before. I have seen this before. In 2000, executives were absolutely petrified of the speed of technology. And that was the era of the dot-com boom. At that time, the first websites were starting to come online, and people were absolutely petrified that they would be left behind. If you didn't invest in the web, your organization was going to die. And so there was this rush in 2000 and 2001 of people desperately trying to invest in the web. And the VCs were spending excessive amounts of money on technology, and companies were investing like crazy into all these different companies like pets.com, boo.com. These were big investments that were happening at that time. And everybody was afraid that they would miss out on the future if they didn't invest right away, even though nobody had any idea how the web worked or what they were supposed to use it for or any of these things. And this didn't last. In 2001, the bubble burst. There were massive layoffs from companies that had invested in the wrong approach to doing the web. Many of these organizations went bankrupt. Most of the investments were lost. Most of the investments in the future just didn't pay off, except for a few companies that made it through the bust. Companies like Amazon and eBay that nobody had heard of before were now actually succeeding. And they were succeeding because they hadn't paid attention to the hype. They had focused on delivering great experiences for their users. And other established companies, ones that come to mind are like Fidelity and Disney, they thrived in this period. Again, not because they were paying attention to the hype, but because they were paying attention to the experiences that they were delivered. And that became the way that people thought about it. And as people were seeing that great user experiences were what was pushing folks successfully into this new future, UX emerged as a highly desirable skill set. And for the decade that followed, from 2001 to pretty much 2015, UX became one of the top jobs to have. Becoming a UX designer, a researcher, or content professional was big. We saw the emergence of interaction design, user research, information architecture, content strategy, front end design. All of these things were things that were very much growing out of this failed dot-com boom. And the field grew in value because executives realized that without great UX, they could not succeed. So the organizations that failed had tried to invest in capabilities that didn't exist yet. They wanted to be innovative, but they ended up just failing. The companies that made it through that period had focused on what was possible at the time and delivered great UX that was within those current constraints. And those companies were willing to make the investments that saw great returns. And so this is what happened 25 years ago, and it's all happening again. The investment cycle that we're seeing with AI mirrors almost identically the investment cycle we saw in the dot-com boom. And the people who focus on the AI of the future are not going to be able to deliver value in today's world. That bubble is going to burst. Instead, if you want to deliver value in today's world, we have to focus on the AI that we can deliver today. And that's going to come because we are delivering great user experiences that bring out the value of having those capabilities. Value that these executives are desperately trying to deliver. And that's why I think there's going to be a resurgence. We can talk about this gap that is between this romanticized AI of the future, the sort of Star Trek computer version of what is possible, and what AI can absolutely do in today's world. And that gap is absolutely essential for us to talk about, because we need to focus people on the reality of what the constraints of today's AI are. Constraints are. I think it's are. How will UX provide value under those constraints? What does our field and us as individuals have to do to keep up our skills, our practices, our perspectives to meet this demand? And how will all of this drive a resurgence? So that's what I want to talk about here today, is answering those questions. To do that, I think I need to talk about it, what I mean by AI, because AI, unfortunately, is this very generic label that people use to mean lots of things. Um, there are basically four types of AI that people commonly talk about today. One is algorithms that we've had for decades now that are basically predictive model algorithms. You know, on my phone, I have an app that can tell me that it's going to start raining in 22 minutes. And I am absolutely sure that there's an algorithm in there predicting that rain that is driven by something that someone would refer to as AI. And these algorithms have been around for a long time. I've got a traffic act that tells me when what roads to take into the city so that I avoid the traffic. I've got apps that can help me figure out when the best time to sell a stock is. All of these things are have some sort of AI component. Games, for the longest time, computer games have had large types of AI-ish things. There's a capability in Zoom where I can press the show captions button, and I just did it. And now words are appearing on my screen, the same words I'm saying with almost no delay. And that is AI, but that predates a lot of what we've been talking about in the last few years. What we've been talking about in the last few years is generative AI, and also known as LLMs, large language models. And these are the sort of conversation tools that have really captured everybody's attention. Executives weren't talking about AI before ChatGPT. It's ChatGPT that's really caught their imagination, and and uh, and so that's what most people are talking about. But then now there's all of this agentic crap that people keep bringing up. And now we very much get into the sci-fi stuff because there's all these agents that are going to do things on our behalf. It's a nice colonialism version of sort of modern day enslaved technology. And then there's what's being referred to as AGI, artificial general intelligence. And this is the thing that everybody is most afraid of, because this is the thing that is going to either free us or enslave us. It's going to take all our jobs, but it's going to bring us so much happiness. This is this is very much the future. The thing is that these are very, very different things, and yet we refer to all of them as AI. And people seem to talk about AI without wanting to clarify which of these things they're talking about. And that can make this conversation really confusing. But we can talk about them. You know, algorithms have been around for a long time, but they're boring. They're not seen as sexy anymore. So we don't give them much thought. Gen AI is the newer kid on the block. If you don't know how it works, it's basically a giant predictive phrase generator. It just uses a giant model to predict what phrases are likely to be associated with the phrases that you gave it as a prompt. And it produces something that feels like a conversation, even though it's just an illusion. The thing about Gen AI is that it does not hold up to production work, but it does demo really well. And so you can really impress people with its demos, but it doesn't do a very good job on actual things. But people will believe it will get better soon, very soon. No, really, very, very soon. It's going to get better. Any minute now, it's going to be better. When we get into agentic AI, this is mostly theoretical. There are some toy agents out there, but they're really just fancy automations. They're not doing anything particularly serious. And they're based on that generative AI models that don't really work in production environments well, but they're going to get better soon. Really, they are. And then there's AGI, which the CEO of Anthropic announced that AGI is 2 years away. He posted that first 2.5 years ago. So it's always going to be 2 years away, apparently. So, it's the future. It always will be. And so this is basically what we have to work with. This is the future. So we've got good algorithms. They're around. We can use them. Gen AI might be good for some things. Hard to say. But that's what the executives are focused on because they've seen the demos. They don't really understand how it works. They certainly don't understand that it's not ready for prime time, but they've seen it and they believe it. So this is key. And this is where we need to start. And we can think about this in terms of sort of plotting how advanced AI has been, right? So 5 years ago, AI was basically just algorithms. So it was in the boring category. And then in 2022, we saw ChatGPT get created. And then we have today. And you can plot a line that shows that, AI has gotten much more sophisticated over time. And there are people who believe that, it's not too far in the future, maybe 5 years from now, that AI is, if you keep plotting the line, it's going to keep going that way. But there are those of us who sort of think that, at that same time, AI is possibly peaked. There's a lot of evidence to suggest that it's peaked. The advancements that we've seen in the most recent year have not been that impressive. The various models are having trouble coming up with anything new that actually pushes the capabilities of AI at all. And in fact, in many dimensions, the AIs are actually getting worse. The newest models, ChatGPT's version 4, Claude 3.7, they actually perform worse on a bunch of scales than the previous versions did. So there's a lot to suggest that maybe we've peaked and that the advances are not coming here. And here's the thing: it's this gap in here that I'm most interested in, because there's a lot of space to get from here to here. And that space requires a whole bunch of change. So if we look at what, this ideal world of the future is supposed to hold for us, what we see in the future is that, if we see future AI here, and I should apologize. The font apparently I've chosen for tonight's presentation is sans legible. So I'm I apologize in advance for not being able to read my handwriting. But if we think about this future AI, it's got some interesting properties. For one thing, it's amazingly accurate. Everything it produces is correct and accurate. It behaves predictably. If I ask it the same question multiple times, I get the same answers each time. It is incredibly easy to interact. The sci-fi versions always have you just talking to it and having this very casual conversation, and it does all the right things. It gets the details right the first time. You don't have to ask it multiple times. You don't have to correct it. It just does it right the first time. It is easy to understand how it got its outcomes. What the kids are calling inspectability, the ability for it to explain how it came to the reasoning that it came to, how it decided what it decided, where it found the information it's citing. All of that is part of this future world. And there are other things too, like it seems to have a clear business model. How it works, how you pay for it, all of that seems to be all worked out. It respects intellectual property. Everybody's given it permission to use what it's used to train, and it's quite happy to respect that and work with it. And it's energy and resource efficient. It's using power well and uses the right amount of water and is all fine. But that's the AI of the future. That's not the AI of today. Today's AI is quite different amongst these dimensions. For one thing, today's AI is highly inaccurate. The hallucination rates, which is a fancy word for the system just making shit up, that is exceptionally high and getting higher in the latest models. And nobody knows why. It omits important facts and details. It gets things wrong. So accuracy is not something that today's models are good at. They are not predictable. You can run the same prompts with the same data multiple times, and each time you will get a different answer with different amounts of hallucinations and different amounts of omissions. So it is not a predictable model. They're not easy to interact with. Even though it gives the air of being easy to interact with, what you find out is every time someone is disappointed about how the AI failed to do something they wanted it to do, the first thing they're assaulted with is, well, you don't understand how to prompt. The prompt language isn't right. You need to become a prompt engineer. And all of this is just, we're back to command line interfaces again. And the arcane nature of trying to talk to something precisely using a spoken language. It's like doing interpretive dance to explain architecture. So that's a key problem. Also, it requires too many iterations to get the details right. You can see story after story iterations is what I wanted to write. Story after, pretend that says iterations. Story after story after story is about how people are getting things almost all the way there, and then they have to start editing their prompts to get it to exactly what they want. And it's almost impossible to get what they want out of it. The other problem is there's no inspectability. You can get ChatGPT to tell you something, but even Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI that makes ChatGPT, admits that nobody knows how it actually comes up with what it actually comes up with. And the problem is that if you ask it how it comes up with what it is, it will tell you a story about how it came up with it, but it isn't how it actually came up with it. It just lies. And then, of course, we've got the issue of stolen IP. That is what these things are trained on. We have the problem of no sustainable business model. OpenAI has admitted that they are losing about $700,000 a day on their product. They are $660 billion in debt. So the only companies making money on this stuff are the hardware companies. These products are losing money consistently, and they're doing it at the cost of the environment. They are completely inefficient. They are using water and electricity at high rates. The companies are building data centers in low-income communities that cannot fight back, and they're driving up costs for power and water and using up resources that we really can't afford for them to use up. And this is what's happening in today's AI. So the deal is that from a UX perspective, this is where we have to work. We cannot build products and services in this future AI. We have to build products and services in this current AI. And that's the challenge that we have. This means that we have to work within constraints. And that's good news, because constraints are a UX superpower, right? That's a thing that we are good at. And the other good news here is that not all AI is bad. There are things that work today. We understand how the algorithms work. There are some limited and constrained scenarios where things like an LLM can be useful. We can start to understand how to work within these constraints. And yes, the technology will get better. It may not get better at the speed that people think it will, but it will get better and we'll adapt to those improvements. And that'll be great. But here's the thing. In order for us as UX professionals to really take advantage and start working on this, we have to change the way we work. One of the reasons why we're in such a pickle right now is that we have let ourselves get a little bit too focused on process and product. We focus on how we think about the work from a very product-centric view. So let's walk through a scenario. Scenario might be something like something that will transcribe a meeting, right? I press the show captions button on my Zoom window here, and these words are appearing as I say them. And that's cool. That has purpose. So let's go down that road. Now, if we're a sort of typical organization, what is happening right now is somebody says, okay, we have this capability to do some sort of intelligent transcription for our meeting product. Let's build that into the product. This is a very product-centric, solution-centric way of thinking about things. And this is how it often works. We start with, we have this technology. How can we use it to make our product better? And we start by focusing on that. And in itself, there's nothing wrong with that. And the sort of standard practice that UX people have is we think about, okay, well, we've got this thing that can capture words out of audio. It can do it in real time. So how does somebody turn it on? How does somebody turn it off? What sort of controls do they have on it? How do they get the words out at the end? What would they use this for? And we would build a UI that can do all those things. And then we would ship it. And the fact that we shipped it with the transcription capability, that would be success. And when we're in this sort of solution first approach, that's how we think. We think about what is the technology? That's the solution. How do we build that solution into our product and ship it? But if we're really going to add value, we have to start with a different approach. We have to start with a problem first approach. Just saying we're going to put transcription into the world doesn't mean it's going to make anything better. So when we talk about what the value of UX is, the value comes when we are improving people's lives. So we want to find opportunities where this technology, transcription, could improve someone's life. So we go out and we study meetings. We study the types of meetings people have. Maybe we go look at a manager meeting with a direct report, or we go understand how lawyers meet with their clients, or we look at how doctors meet with patients. And we look for places where there's some sort of problem that is frustrating the experience of the people today. So let's, for instance, look at the doctor experience. And so we have a doctor meeting with a patient. And one of the things we can do is we can take that experience of a meeting and we can measure the experience from the doctor's perspective on a scale of extreme frustration to extreme delight. And this frustration, maybe they're meeting with the patient, but they have to look up the patient history. There's some frustration around that, and then they talk to the patient and they have a really good session with the patient, but now they have to take the notes from that and they have to add it into their electronic health record system, and they have to put in billing codes and pull out the prescriptions and all these things. And we can see that there's this point after the doctor has met with the patient where they have to transcribe this meeting, and they're currently doing it by hand, writing up their notes. And this can take hours a week of all the patients that they're dealing with. And we can ask the question, how could we make this delightful for the doctor and start to raise up this frustration into something that's delightful? And that's where we can then ask the question, how would AI help with this? So maybe now we could build a transcription product that actually not only takes minutes from the meeting with the patient, but does things like pull out details that the doctor has to put into the electronic health record. Things like the patient history and the prescriptions and the treatment plan and diagnosis tests that they might want to run. And more importantly, the billing codes so that the hospital knows how to actually bill the patient and the insurance company. And the thing is that we know that the transcription has a fairly high error rate. So before it puts the information into the health record, it actually walks through and asks the doctor to approve all the things that it's transcribed. So if it gets a dosage wrong, the doctor can just correct it easily. And this is going to make a difference in the doctor's life. Here's the thing. I'm not making this scenario up. Kaiser Permanente built this thing, and they're seeing it actually save, on average, for a sample of 10,000 doctors who've piloted this thing, about 3 hours a week that doctors can spend with patients and not spend sitting in front of their electronic health system, putting all this data in. And so there's real benefit to this technology. And it's that type of thinking where we start with the problem and then we fit the technology to it, and we fit the technology within the constraints that the technology has, that allows us to come up with something that's not only acceptable, but is in fact improving the lives of the people who use it. And that's where the value is. And we can demonstrate that value when we can see 3 hours more patients per week across 10,000 doctors. That's 30,000 hours of patient time we're adding into the system. And that is extremely valuable to the patients, to the doctors, to the healthcare system. And it's all because we have created a user experience that makes people's lives better. Being able to demonstrate that is how we're going to see a UX resurgence, because we can do that over and over again. AI is not going to deliver on the romanticized sci-fi promises. However, our organizations are depending on us to deliver value, and we can do that by focusing on improving people's lives and then applying the technology in its current state to that. And this is the work that UX professionals do best. We're going to see that we need a whole new set of strategic UX skills and capabilities to pull this off. But now is the time to take the reins and start driving value. And that's the type of thing we're going to see. Okay, I'm going to take some questions in a minute. Before we go, I just want to tell you that if you found this interesting, we actually have a course that we've put together called UX and Design in an AI World. And this is a brand new course that we are offering. The first cohort starts in next week, and you can join us. It's a very reasonable price, I think, of $199. That's our introductory price. And that is available to you. Here's the link here. And you can get $25 off of that if you use the promotion code Lightning25. So go ahead and take that. Then you get it for what, $174. So that's even a better price. I also have another talk that I'm giving this week, this Friday, which you can sign up for, or you can get the video for. It is basically a promotion for the event. So if you want to sign up for that, here's the link for that. And hello, come on, there we go. Computer is not cooperating. Let me get you this link. Here we go. And so this is, both of these are available to you if you found what I've been talking about here useful. And then we also have a community that you can join that's free. It's the Leaders of Awesomeness community. And we talk about this stuff and many other things related to strategic UX all the time. So those are three options. But let's take some questions here. So if you have a question, just put it in the chat and we'll go from there. Naya, did we get any questions so far?
Yes. I think I was going to ask Anna, but I think she has left. Oh, here we are. John. Every day I'm bombarded with posts across channels about the shiny new AI tool or incremental update, making it nearly impossible to keep up, much less evaluate these tools for their effectiveness in our UX workflow. How do you sift through the noise and pick and choose what's worth your limited attention?
John, you want to say more about this? You can unmute. And though we may need to. Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much. This has been really informative. So yeah, I'm subscribed to a bunch of tech influencers and movers and shakers, and everyone's announcing something new coming up, some new design product, new voice AI assistant. new this, new that. It's just so much, and I can't keep up with it. I can't go and research all of it. How do you just cut through that and find what you are interested in? What's going to be relevant to you in the future, perhaps?
You know, I think 99% of it is noise.
Yeah.
And I reminds me of the days where we used to have the website of the day thing, and there were, remember Yahoo started as just an index of interesting websites,
Yes.
and it was the same deal. And you know what? Um, the ones that everybody ended up gravitating to were the ones that their friends just told them about, and they they sort of vetted them. There's a whole bunch of people out there who are just going to try everything, and you can let them try everything. But I am sort of in the game of waiting until something actually proves to be useful. And so I am I am not paying any attention to any of these things. Uh, People accuse me of not having tried this stuff, but I've played with it a bit, but I don't find it to be a good use of my time. It's the problem is that none of it actually works well. I'm even a little frustrated by the fact that uh, products which I am perfectly happy with feel like they have to shove this AI capability, usually because it's got some sort of sparkly star icon that, frankly, to me, always looks like a butthole. But like sitting at the bottom of the Zoom window is this AI companion button. And I don't want to press it. I don't have an urge to press it. I would wish it would just go away. And that is because I was happy with my products. I use a product to check my grammar when I'm writing. I do a lot of writing, and I want something to check my grammar. And it feels like it's gotten worse since they started promoting that they've integrated AI into the product. And it makes suggestions where it changes the meaning of my sentences. And I don't want a grammar checker to change the meaning of my sentences. I want it just to correct my grammar, but keep the same meaning. And so these are most of these things that are coming out are features, not actual new things, right? They're not innovations, they're just features. And they'll get built, if they're valuable, they'll get built into something else. I remember when we used to have separate apps to do spell check, and now spell check is built into the operating system. So this is most of the other people are going to figure out what's useful, and you know it's all going to change in the next 5 weeks, and then the 5 weeks after that, and then the 5 weeks after that. There's no real reason to try to keep up. um, I don't think it offers that much advantage. There are most of the people who you see reviewing these things say, oh yeah, I tried this tool and it created a prototype really fast, except it wasn't the prototype I wanted. So then I had to change my prompt for about 4 hours to get the prototype I wanted. And it's like, okay, but I can throw together a screen on a whiteboard in 30 seconds and I'm a happy camper.
Right.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Honest.
That's a great segue into Nikki's question about what are your thoughts about vibe designing and eventually leveraging AI more for creating design systems, training a model on that design system and using something like Replit bolts to create new functional pages on that design system, for example. No more trying to think of what a new calendar element will look like, maybe just in a future weeks. Nikki, do you want to come and say more about it? If she's still here.
Yeah, sure. I'm here.
Hey, Nikki.
Hi.
So
Yeah, I'm just curious what your thoughts are. Like I've been watching, tons of videos on YouTube and, designers having a challenge. We're going to recreate DocuSign. Let's see who could do it in an hour. I'm going to use Bolt. I'm going to use Replit. And, like what they are starting to come out with, I would say about a year ago, I was like, psh, whatever. What I'm seeing people do now, I'm like, still, I don't think that UX designers are going away. You need our brain, you need our creativity, you need the way that we communicate with the other teams that we work with. But at the same time, I am seeing opportunities to clean up my workflow and get rid of processes that I've gotten used to doing because that's how it's always been done. But I'm realizing now the only reason I ever had to do those processes was because that's the only way I can communicate my vision to the computer. But now I'm starting to see that there are processes that maybe I can let go of um, out of like pride because it's like, oh, I took so much time. I learned that. I've been doing that for 10 years. No one's taken that away from me. But maybe it's okay for it to take some of that away from me if it means that I can focus more on my vision. So yeah, I'm curious what you think.
Yeah. So first, um, there was a word in your original question that jumped out at me, and that was the word eventually. Right? We're always talking about this in the future, and you know, the future is the future, but I'm interested in now.
Yeah.
And so the thing about these tools now is most design is not, I'm going to start from zero and recreate DocuSign.
Right.
Most design is, I've got a screen filled with menus and prompts and data and things, and I need to change that screen, keeping it consistent in the design system of today, to be able to add a little bit more data and maybe a couple more buttons to do a new function that has a multi-screen flow. And these tools, for the most part, can't handle that today, right? So they're not helpful. Will they ever be able to handle it? Maybe. I'm also supposed to have a flying car and a jetpack. So when those things happen, fine. And maybe that will happen in our lifetimes.
I mean, I guess I definitely I agree with you on some of those points, but I do feel like some of the apps that I'm seeing out there are kind of starting to feel like it's now, not later. And if I don't, like, I feel like there are some apps that are allowing you to maybe not go into your traditional process and make all of those updates that you would want to make. It's not that magic. But if you start with these apps from the get, and that's how you're building your design system in the first place, the idea that you would be able to be like, okay, now I want to make a page for scheduling events and I want to add a event calendar. You type that in, and now since you've already built a design system, it recreates that page already functioning. The code is at least as decent as I would do quickly, and it's got the new elements styled in that design system. I didn't have to spend hours trying to figure out, now how do I want to apply that design system to this element. So, I mean, I am kind of seeing ways that it can help my workflow now.
Then use it, right? But I mean, that's true of any tool. The tools that we have today, look, when I started in this industry, and I'm old, right? So I started in this industry in 1976. If I wanted to create a simple word processor that would let me have text that would be bolded and italicized, I had to write the code that read the key from the keyboard, looked up what that character was, figure out what the font was, figure out what pixels in the font I wanted to draw, and draw them on the graphics card, and then do the next character in the word. I had to understand how, if a word extended beyond the right-hand margin, how to erase that word and move everything up and put the text on the next line.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the level we were working on. And so, today I can just use a rich text component that's already pre-built. Is that the future? No, it's just technology moving forward. And there is a regular cadence to technology moving forward. And some of this stuff is going to happen. But let me tell you about a project I worked on in 1988. In 1988, I was involved in a project that was taking mainframe programs and converting them using AI. We were using Lisp, which is an AI programming language. We were using Lisp-based modeling to read COBOL code, understand the COBOL code, and try to write out new COBOL code so people could update from IBM IDMS databases to DB2 databases, which at the time was the state of the art in database technology in 1988. And this was worth millions of dollars because there were millions and millions of lines of IDMS code out there. But the program never worked. We sold it. We got this close. People are like, it's going to happen any day now, but it never, ever worked. That code we were trying to convert, that's the same code that your bank uses to process your ATM transactions and your credit card company uses to process your credit card transactions. That code is still running, that old IDMS COBOL code. And we've never gotten it to work. And so that's the thing. Things that that last little bit, all the easy problems have been solved. It's the hard problems that are preventing us from getting to that next level. From, for instance, reading all of your existing design system code and figuring out what your design system should look like so that you could have an AI create new components or convert from one component to another. That doesn't exist today. And will that exist in a year? Maybe, but I'm not optimistic. I think we've peaked. But I could be wrong. It is possible that we will someday have this stuff. But you know what? Let's just focus on what we can do today. And there's a lot we can do with the technology that's out there. And there's a lot of new technology that does some pretty cool stuff. So we can start to use that. But the thing we have to be well aware of is basically all the things that are on this list of problems that we have, because having things that are inaccurate, that are not predictable, that are hard to use, that take too many interactions and have no inspectability are really problematic. And the fact that it's based on stolen intellectual property, it doesn't have a sustainable business model. Right now, all of these tools that you're using are based on things like, they're running on these LLMs as an underlying foundational technology that are running at a loss. When those companies decide to start charging, remember when it only cost $5 to take an Uber? Those days are gone. And that's because the venture capitalists were subsidizing those products to get you to buy it. That's what's happening in the AI world. And what happens when it costs $1,000 per line of code to be able to actually use these tools? That's the problem that we have.
Thanks so much for answering my question.
You're welcome. Okay, Neha, what should we do next? Should we call it a night, or do we?
Yeah, we have to.
Okay.
We're a little over time, but I think this is a conversation that can be talked about for hours and hours and hours. So I would urge anybody who has any pending question to reach out to Jared. He shared a lot of resources with us today, definitely on LinkedIn. So keep the conversation going. Maybe not here, but either IXDF or on Center, Leaders of Awesomeness. And again, thank you, Jared, for today's session, and thank you for everybody to have joined us today.
Thank you very much for having me, and go make some awesomeness.
Thank you, Jared.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.